The morning sun filters through sheer curtains, casting golden rectangles across a cramped studio apartment. Books are everywhere, stacked on nightstands, piled on the kitchen counter, creating towers that seem to defy gravity. This is Tessa's world, and books are her oxygen. Tessa Martinez sits cross-legged on her unmade bed, auburn hair cascading over her shoulders as she adjusts her wire-rimmed glasses. She's 26, with a kind of quiet beauty that sneaks up on you, freckles scattered across her nose like constellation points, green eyes that seem to hold secrets. She clutches a worn copy of Jane Austen's Persuasion against her chest like a shield. Her alarm buzzes insistently. Tessa sighs, marking her place with a coffee-stained bookmark, and begins her morning ritual. She moves through her apartment like a dancer who knows every step by heart, brewing coffee in a chipped mug that reads bibliophile, selecting today's book from a carefully curated stack, and checking her reflection one last time before heading to work.
If you enjoy the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe as that greatly helps the channel.
The city library stands like a cathedral in the heart of downtown, its stone facade weathered but dignified. Tessa pushes through the heavy oak doors, breathing in the familiar scent of old paper and forgotten dreams. This is her sanctuary, her second home, the place where she's worked for the past 4 years since graduating college.
Tessa oive tout Margaret, the head librarian, and settle behind the circulation desk.
Her morning passes in comfortable routine, checking out books, helping patrons find lost treasures, and stealing moments to read between tasks. But today feels different.
Today, something electric in the air, like the moment before lightning strike.
During her lunch break, Tessa decides to visit the Reading Nook, a cozy independent bookstore 3 blocks from the library. It's owned by Mrs. Chun, a 70-year-old woman who somehow knows exactly what book every customer needs before they do. The store is cramped and cluttered, with handwritten recommendation cards tucked between volumes and a resident cat named Hemingway who judges browsers from his perch atop the bestsellers. The bell above the door chimes as Tessa enters, and Mrs. Chun looks up from her inventory with a knowing smile. Mrs. Chun says, "Tessa dear.
Perfect timing.
I just got a shipment of new releases, and there's something I think you'll find interesting." Tessa laughs, pushing her glasses up her nose. "You always say that, Mrs. Chun. What is it this time? Another tragic love story to make me cry into my coffee?" Mrs. Chen's eyes twinkle with mischief. "This one's different.
It's personal."
She leads Tessa to the new releases section, where a single book sits on display like it's been waiting. The cover is elegant in its simplicity, deep forest green with gold lettering that seems to shimmer. The title reads Quiet Corners and Loud Hearts by S.J. Rivers. Tessa picks up the book, running her fingers over the smooth cover. Something about it feels familiar, like recognizing a song you've heard in dreams.
Tessa murmure, S.J. Rivers?
I've never heard of this author. Mrs. Chun shrugs mysteriously.
New voice in romance.
The publisher says it's semi-autobiographical. A love story about 2 college students who lost each other and the words they never got to say. Tessa's heart skips a beat, but she tells herself it's just coincidence. College love stories are a dime a dozen. She flips to the dedication page, and the world tilts on its axis. The dedication reads, "For TM, the girl who taught me that some stories never end, they just wait for better writers."
TM Tessa Martinez.
The blood drains from her face as she stares at the initials. It has to be a coincidence. It has to be. With trembling fingers, she opens to the first chapter, and her breath catches in her throat. The opening scene describes a girl with auburn hair and green eyes, sitting in the back corner of Professor Williams' American literature class, always with a book in her lap, always stealing glances at the boy in the leather jacket who sits 2 rows ahead. Tessa's legs feel weak. She sinks into the reading chair Mrs. Chun keeps by the window, Hemingway regarding her with concerned yellow eyes. The girl in the book is named Tessa.
The boy is Sam.
She reads on, mesmerized and terrified. Every detail is perfect. The way she used to tuck her hair behind her ear when nervous, her habit of annotating books in purple ink, her secret love for terrible reality TV shows that she watched alone in her dorm room. But it's not just the details about her that make her hands shake. It's the details about Sam that no one else could possibly know. The book describes how Sam noticed that she always carried a thermos of coffee that smelled like vanilla and cinnamon. How he knew she was left-handed because of the way ink smudged on the side of her hand after taking notes. How he'd started sitting in the library just to watch her study, pretending to read philosophy texts while memorizing the way she bit her lower lip when concentrating. These aren't things she told him. These are things he observed, things he noticed, things he kept to himself during the 3 months they danced around each other before finally connecting. Tessa's mind reels back to those days, 4 years ago, when everything felt possible and love was a language she was just learning to speak.
Flashback, 4 years ago.
The University of Portland campus in autumn is a postcard come to life. Red and gold leaves create a carpet underfoot, and students hurry between classes with coffee cups steaming in the crisp air. 22-year-old Tessa walks across the quad, books clutched against her chest, completely lost in her own world. She doesn't notice Sam Torres until she literally runs into him. Sam is 23, with dark hair that never quite stays in place and brown eyes that seem to hold entire conversations. He wears a worn leather jacket over vintage band t-shirts, and there's something magnetic about the way he moves through the world. Confident but not arrogant, mysterious but not pretentious.
The collision sent Tessa's books flying, page fluttering like confused birds.
She scrambles to collect them, mortified, while Sam crouches down to help. Sam says, "I'm so sorry, I wasn't watching where I was going."
Are you okay?
Their hands brush as they both reach for her copy of The Great Gatsby, and Tessa feels electricity shoot up her arm. She looks up to find Sam staring at her with those intense brown eyes, and for a moment, the entire campus fades away. Tessa stammers, "I'm fine, really. I'm the one who should apologize. I was reading while walking," which is apparently a dangerous combination. Sam grins, and Tessa's heart does something gymnastic in her chest. "What's the book?" Tessa holds up her worn copy of Persuasion.
Jane Austen. It's my comfort read.
I know it's not very original for an English major, but... Sam interrupts, and Eliot is one of literature's most underrated heroines. She's got more emotional intelligence in her little finger than most protagonists have in their entire character arc.
Tessa blinque in surprise.
Most guys she knows think Jane Austen is just chick lit, with fancier language. Tessa says, "You've read Austen?" Sam's cheeks flush slightly. "My mom was an English teacher. She made me read the classics before she'd let me touch science fiction. Best education I ever got." They stand there in the middle of the quad, students flowing around them like water around stones, and Tessa realizes this is one of those moments that changes everything. Sam asks, "Can I buy you coffee?" as an apology for the collision and a reward for carrying good books. Tessa's practical mind screams that she has papers to write and readings to catch up on, but her heart is already saying yes. Their first coffee date lasts 4 hours. They sit in The Grind, a tiny cafe near campus that smells like espresso and ambition, talking about everything and nothing. Sam tells her about growing up in a small town in Oregon, how he always felt like he was meant for something bigger but never knew what. Tessa shares her dream of working in libraries, of being surrounded by stories for the rest of her life. Sam says, "You know what I love about libraries? They're like sanctuaries for introverts. All that knowledge and beauty, but quiet enough to actually think."
Tessa sat flûter.
No one has ever understood that before. Their relationship builds slowly, like a careful construction of trust and inside jokes. They study together in the library, Sam pretending to read his international relations textbooks while actually watching Tessa annotate her literature assignments in purple ink. She makes notes in the margins like she's having conversations with the authors, and Sam finds it endearing how seriously she takes every story. They start having lunch together every Tuesday and Thursday. Sam learns that Tessa puts way too much sugar in her coffee, that she's afraid of butterflies but loves thunderstorms, and that she has a secret addiction to terrible reality dating shows. Tessa discovers that Sam writes poetry in a leather-bound journal he thinks no one notices, that he volunteers at the animal shelter every weekend, and that he makes the best chocolate chip cookies she's ever tasted. Their first kiss happens on a rainy November evening. They're studying in Tessa's dorm room, textbooks spread across her tiny desk, when the power goes out. Tessa lights candles, and suddenly the practical study session becomes something intimate and magical. Sam says, "I have a confession to make." Tessa looks up from her notes, candlelight dancing across her features.
What kind of confession?
Sam moves closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I haven't been able to concentrate on anything since I met you.
Every book you read, every assignment you write, every conversation you have, So moitol comes back to you. Tessa es briscatch. Sam.
Sam reaches out, gently tucking a strand of auburn hair behind her ear.
I think I'm falling in love with you, Tessa Martinez.
And it's the most terrifying and wonderful thing I've ever felt. The kiss is soft and tentative at first, like they're both afraid of breaking something precious. Then Tessa's arms wind around Sam's neck, and suddenly they're both sure this is exactly where they're supposed to be. For 3 months, they exist in their own perfect bubble. They have their spots, the corner table at the grind, the 3rd floor of the library where no one ever goes, the bench by the duck pond where they go to talk about their dreams. Sam tells Tessa about his plans to travel after graduation, to see the world and write about it. He's been accepted to a journalism program in London, an opportunity that could launch his writing career. Tessa shares her acceptance to the graduate program in library science, her excitement about spending 2 more years surrounded by books and learning. They make plans. Sam will defer London for a year so Tessa can finish her master's degree. Then they'll go together, have adventures, build a life filled with books and stories and love. But the universe has other plans. In February, Sam's father has a heart attack. Sam rushes home to Oregon, leaving Tessa with promises to call every day and be back within a week. The calls come at first, Sam's voice tight with worry as he describes his father's condition, the family business that's falling apart without leadership, his mother's barely contained panic. Tessa listens and offers comfort, counting the days until he returns. But the calls become less frequent. Sam's voice grows distant, distracted. He starts talking about responsibilities he never mentioned before, about family obligations and impossible choices. The last call comes on a Tuesday in March. Sam's voice is hollow, defeated. Sam says through the phone, "Tessa, I need to tell you something, and I don't know how to say it." Tessa grips the phone tighter, already sensing the earthquake coming.
Just say it, samedi.
Whatever it is, we can figure it out. Sam is quiet for so long that Tessa thinks the call has dropped. Then he speaks, and his words shatter her world. Sam says, "I can't come back. My dad, he's not going to recover the way we hoped. Someone needs to take over the family business, and I'm the only one who can do it. I have to stay, Tessa. I have to stay, and I don't know for how long." Tessa's heart stops. But what about London? What about our plans? Sam's voice breaks. "I can't ask you to wait for something that might never happen. You deserve better than that."
You deserve someone who can give you the future you want.
Tessa says desperately, "But I want a future with you, Sam. We can make this work. I can transfer schools, I can."
Sam interrupt. No. I won't let you give up your dream for my mess.
You're going to do amazing things, Tessa. You're going to change the world, one book at a time. And I'm going to be so proud of you, even if I can't be there to see it. The line goes quiet except for the sound of both of them trying not to cry.
Tessa whisper. So this is it?
We're just done. Sam's voice is barely audible.
I love you too much to hold you back.
The call ends, and Tessa sits in her dorm room staring at the phone for hours, waiting for it to ring again. Waiting for Sam to call back and say he's made a mistake, that love conquers all, that they'll find a way.
The phone never ring. Back to présent.
Tessa closes the book with trembling hands, tears she didn't realize she was crying dripping onto the cover. Every word has been like a knife, precise and cutting, opening wounds she thought had healed. Mrs. Chen approaches quietly, setting a cup of chamomile tea beside Tessa's chair. Mrs. Chen says gently, "Rough read." Tessa laughs, but it comes out more like a sob. "You could say that." "Mrs. Chen, who is S.J. Rivers? Really?" Mrs. Chen settles into the chair across from her, Hemingway jumping into her lap. "I was wondering when you'd ask. He came in about 6 months ago, nervous as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs. Said he'd written a book and wanted to know if I'd consider carrying it in my store." Tessa's heart pounds. "Eh?" Mrs. Chen nods. Tall young man, dark hair, wore a leather jacket that looked like it had seen some adventures. He kept fidgeting with a pen while he talked, like he was more comfortable writing than speaking.
The description hits Tessa like a physical blow.
"It's Sam. It has to be Sam." Mrs. Chun continues, "He was very specific about wanting the book in my store. Said there was someone special who shopped here, someone who would understand what the story meant. He never said who, but now I think I know. Tessa wipes her eyes, trying to process everything. Is he, do you know where he is now? Mrs. Chen smiles mysteriously. I might. But first, I think you should finish the book.
The ending might surprise you.
Tessa looks down at the novel in her lap, only halfway through. She's not sure her heart can take much more, but she needs to know how their story ends, or if it ends at all. She opens to where she left off and continues reading. The book follows their college romance with devastating accuracy, every sweet moment and growing pain captured in prose that makes Tessa's chest ache. But then it diverges from reality. In the book, Sam doesn't just disappear. The character of Sam writes letters to Tessa that he never sends, poems about missing her that fill notebooks, and stories about a future where they find each other again. The fictional Sam doesn't just leave. He fights for their love, even when it seems impossible. Tessa reads faster, her heart racing as the story builds to its climax. The book's Tessa graduates with her master's degree and gets her dream job at a library. The book Sam finishes taking care of his family responsibilities and starts writing professionally. And slowly, carefully, they find their way back to each other. But the real gut punch comes on the last page. Instead of a traditional ending, there's a letter addressed directly to the reader. If you're reading this, it means my story found its way to you. It means that Mrs. Chun was right, and some books do find their perfect reader. This story isn't fiction, it's a love letter disguised as a novel.
It's everything I never got to say and everything I still hope for.
If you recognize yourself in these pages, if you see our story in this story, then you should know, I never stopped loving you. I never stopped hoping. And if you're willing to write the next chapter together, I'll be waiting where our story began. S. Tessa stares at the page until the words blur. Her hands shake as she closes the book and looks up to find Mrs. Chun watching her with knowing eyes. Tessa whispers, "Where is he, Mrs. Chun?" Mrs. Chun checks her watch. If I know Sam Torres, he's probably at the grind right about now. He's been going there every day for the past month, sitting at the same table, writing in a journal and checking his phone like he's waiting for something. Tessa's heart stops. The grind? Our coffee shop from college. Mrs. Chun nods.
The very one.
It's only a 15-minute walk from here.
For a moment, Tessa can't move.
4 years of hurt and healing hang in the balance. Seeing Sam again could destroy the peace she's worked so hard to build, or it could be the beginning of something beautiful and terrifying. She stands up, clutching the book against her chest like armor. Tessa says, "Mrs. Chun, what if this is a mistake? What if some stories are meant to stay finished?" Mrs. Chun smiles, stroking Hemingway's fur. "My dear, the only mistake would be letting fear write your ending. Love stories aren't meant to be safe. They're meant to be true." Tessa takes a deep breath, gathering her courage like collecting scattered pages. She heads for the door, then turns back. Tessa says, "Mrs. Chun? Thank you."
For everything.
Mrs. Chun winks.
Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you're happy.
The walk to the grind feels like both an eternity and an instant. Tessa's mind races with everything she wants to say and everything she's afraid to hear. What if Sam isn't the same person she fell in love with? What if 4 years have changed them both too much? What if the book was just his way of finding closure, not a second chance? But as she approaches the familiar coffee shop, her doubts quiet to a whisper. Through the window, she can see him. Sam sits at their old table in the corner, and Tessa's breath catches. He's older now, the boyish softness replaced by sharper angles and laugh lines around his eyes. His hair is shorter but still rebellious, and he still wears that leather jacket like it's part of his skin. He's writing in a journal, completely absorbed, occasionally running his hand through his hair in the gesture she remembers so well. For a moment, Tessa just watches him, memorizing this version of Sam like she memorized the college version 4 years ago. He's still beautiful, still magnetic, still the person who made her believe in love at first sight. She pushes open the door, and the little bell chimes. Sam looks up, and their eyes meet across the crowded cafe. Time stops. Sam's pen falls from his hand, clattering onto the table. His eyes widen, and Tessa sees a dozen emotions flash across his face: surprise, hope, fear, love, and something that looks like relief. Slowly, Tessa walks toward their table, her legs unsteady but determined. Other customers fade into background noise. The barista's calls and the hiss of the espresso machine become distant sounds. There's only Sam, only this moment, only the space between them that's measured in heartbeats and held breath. She stops in front of the table, still clutching his book. Tessa says quietly, "I read your story." Sam stands up slowly, like he's afraid any sudden movement might make her disappear.
Tessa.
I wasn't sure you'd come. Tessa holds up the book.
Est-ce Rivers?
Really? You couldn't use your real name.
Sam smooth quirk into the half smile she remember. Samuel James Rivers.
S.J. seemed more mysterious for a romance novelist. Despite everything, Tessa finds herself almost smiling. You wrote a romance novel. Sam says, I wrote our story. The way it should have ended. The way I hoped it still could end. They stand there, 2 feet apart but separated by 4 years of silence and hurt. Tessa sets the book on the table between them like a bridge. Tessa says, You left, Sam. You called me and you left, and I waited for you to call back, and you never did.
Sam's face crumble. Tessa, I know.
I know, and I've regretted it every single day since. I thought I was protecting you, I thought I was being noble, but really I was just scared. Scared of failing you, scared of not being enough, scared of asking you to sacrifice your dreams for my mess. Tessa's eyes fill with tears she's been holding back for 4 years. But you didn't ask me. You made the choice for both of us. You decided what I could and couldn't handle, what I did and didn't deserve. You took away my agency in our own love story. Sam nods, tears in his own eyes.
You're right.
You're absolutely right, and I can't take that back. I can't undo the hurt I caused. But Tessa, if you'll let me, I want to spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Tessa sinks into her old chair, the one she used to sit in every Tuesday and Thursday. Sam sits across from her, and for a moment, they're 22 and 23 again, falling in love over coffee and conversation. Tessa says, Tell me what happened. Really happened. Not the version in the book, the real version.
Sam takes a shaky breath.
My dad's heart attack was worse than we initially thought. He needed multiple surgeries, and the recovery it was touch and go for months. The family business, a small construction company my grandfather started, was hemorrhaging money without someone to run it. My mom was falling apart, my younger sister was still in high school, and I was the only one who could step in. He pauses, running his hand through his hair. Sam continues, but that's not the whole truth. The whole truth is that I was terrified. Terrified of asking you to put your life on hold for my family drama. Terrified that you'd say yes out of love and then resent me later when you realized what you'd given up. Terrified that I wasn't worth it. Tessa listens, her heart breaking for the scared 23-year-old Sam used to be. Sam says, I convinced myself that letting you go was the loving thing to do. That you'd be better off without me dragging you down. But really, I was protecting myself from the possibility that you might leave anyway once you saw how complicated my life had become. Tessa reaches across the table, her fingertips barely touching his hand.
Sam, I loved you.
Really, truly loved you. I would have figured it out with you. We could have made it work. Sam's voice breaks. I know that now.
I veux known it for 4 years.
Every day I wanted to call you, to write to you, to show up at your graduation and tell you I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. But I thought too much time had passed. I thought you'd moved on. Tessa says softly, I tried to move on. I dated other people, I threw myself into work, I convinced myself I was over you. But then I'd smell someone wearing your cologne, or I'd hear a song we used to listen to, and it was like the wound was fresh all over again. They sit in silence for a moment, the weight of 4 years of missed conversations settling between them. Sam says, the book? Writing it was the only way I could process everything. The only way I could imagine a world where I hadn't been such a coward. Where I'd fought for us instead of giving up. Tessa picks up the book, flipping through pages that tell their story with heartbreaking accuracy. Tessa says, some of these details, things I never told you. How did you know about the purple ink?
About my reality TV addiction.
Sam smiles sadly. I noticed everything about you, Tessa. I memorized you like you were my favorite poem. The purple ink because you said black was too harsh for literature. The reality TV because you'd reference shows you claimed to hate but knew too much about. I paid attention because I was already in love with you before I even knew what love was. Tessa's heart clenches. And after? After you left. Sam says, I kept paying attention from a distance. I looked you up online sometimes, so you got your master's degree, so you got the job at the library. I was so proud of you, Tessa. So proud and so sorry I wasn't there to celebrate with you.
Tessa weep her eyes.
This is surreal. Sitting here with you, talking about this.
For years, you were like a ghost in my life.
This person I loved who just vanished. Sam leans forward, his voice urgent.
I'm not a ghost anymore, Tessa.
I'm here, I'm real, and I'm completely, utterly still in love with you. My dad recovered, took 2 years, but he's running the business again. I finished taking care of my family responsibilities. I even got that journalism degree, just took a different path to get there. He reaches into his jacket and pulls out a folded letter, worn soft from handling. Sam says, I wrote you a letter every week for 4 years. Never sent them, but I wrote them. This is the first one. With trembling hands, Tessa unfolds the letter. It's dated a week after their last phone call, and it's heartbreaking in its raw honesty. Sam writing about missing her laugh, about seeing things he wants to share with her, about realizing he'd made the biggest mistake of his life. Tessa says, Sam, why now?
Why the book? Why finding me now?
Sam says, because I finally realized that loving someone means fighting for them, not making decisions for them. Because I learned the difference between protecting someone and abandoning them. And because Mrs. Chun told me you still come into her bookstore every week looking for new love stories, and I thought maybe, just maybe, you might want to finish writing ours. Tessa looks up from the letter, her green eyes swimming with tears. I don't know if I can do this, Sam. I don't know if I can trust you not to leave again when things get complicated.
Sam no, understanding.
I know I have to earn your trust back. I know sorry isn't enough. But Tessa, I'm not the same person who got scared and ran 4 years ago. I've spent 4 years learning how to stay, how to fight, how to choose love even when it's terrifying. He reaches across the table, covering her hand with his. Sam says, I can't promise it will be easy. I can't promise we won't face challenges or complications or moments when we both want to run. But I can promise that I will never, ever make the choice to leave again. If you'll let me, I want to spend the rest of my life proving that to you. Tessa stares down at their joined hands, her small ink-stained fingers intertwined with his larger calloused ones. It feels like coming home and jumping off a cliff all at once. Tessa says, I'm scared, Sam. I'm terrified of letting you back in and getting hurt again. I'm terrified of hoping for something that might not work out. Sam says gently, being scared means it matters. It means it's real.
I'm scared de tout, Tessa. Scared I ve lost my chance. Scared I don't deserve your forgiveness. Scared I mess this up again.
But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. Tessa looks up, meeting his eyes for the first time since sitting down. In them, she sees the boy she fell in love with in college, but also the man he's become, older, wiser, steadier. Tessa says, if we do this, if we try this, it has to be different. No more making decisions for me, no more protecting me from things you think I can't handle. We're partners, or we're nothing. Sam nods emphatically.
Partners. In everything.
I promise.
Tessa takes a deep breath, feeling like she's standing on the edge of her own love story.
Tessa says, the book ends with them finding each other again. But that's not really an ending, is it? That's just the beginning of the next chapter.
Sam's face lights up with hope.
The best stories don't really end. They just begin again, with better writers. For the first time in 4 years, Tessa smiles, really smiles, at Sam Torres. It's tentative and fragile, but it's real. Tessa says, I'd like to try writing the next chapter together. But we're starting slow. Coffee dates and long conversations and figuring out who we are now before we decide who we want to be together. Sam's smile could power the entire city. I would love nothing more than to fall in love with you all over again, Tessa Martinez. Slowly, carefully, and completely. He signals the barista, who approaches with a knowing smile, apparently, their reunion hasn't gone unnoticed. Sam says, 2 coffees please. 1 regular with way too much sugar, and 1 black with a shot of vanilla.
Tessa blinque in surprise. You remember my coffee order.
Sam says softly, I remember everything about you. The important question is, what new things will I get to learn? As the barista brings their coffee, Tessa opens Sam's book to the first page and slides it across the table. Tessa says, read it to me. Our story. I want to hear it in your voice. Sam picks up the book, his hands steady now, and begins to read. His voice is warm and familiar, turning their painful history into something beautiful, something worth celebrating rather than mourning. Other customers come and go around them, but Tessa and Sam exist in their own bubble of rediscovered love and tentative hope. They're not the same 22 and 23-year-olds who fell in love in this same coffee shop 4 years ago. They're older, wiser, more careful with their hearts, but also braver about risking them. As Sam reads their story aloud, Tessa realizes that the best love stories aren't the ones that end happily ever after on the first try. The best love stories are the ones that end with 2 people choosing each other again and again, through hurt and healing, through fear and faith, through all the messy, complicated, beautiful realities of building a life together. When Sam finishes reading the last page, the letter addressed directly to her, he closes the book and looks up. Sam says, so Tessa Martinez, what do you think? Ready to write the sequel? Tessa reaches across the table and takes the pen from beside his journal. In the margin of the book's final page, she writes, yes. But this time, we write it together. Damn. Sam's eyes fill with tears as he reads her words. He takes the pen and adds his own note, together, always.
The end is just the beginning. SG.
Outside, the sun is setting, painting the coffee shop in golden light. Tessa and Sam sit across from each other, holding hands across the table, surrounded by the comfortable chatter of other people's lives. They have so much to talk about, so much to figure out, so many conversations and careful steps ahead of them. But for now, it's enough to sit in their old spot, drinking coffee that tastes like memory and possibility, writing the first words of their second chapter. Love, as it turns out, is not about getting it right the first time. Love is about getting it wrong, learning from the mistakes, and choosing to try again with better tools and braver hearts. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, love is about finding your story in someone else's book and realizing that the best stories never really end, they just get better writers. As Tessa and Sam sit in the grind, planning their careful, hopeful future, Mrs. Chen is back at her bookstore, smiling as she moves quiet corners and loud hearts from the new releases shelf to a special display marked Local Success Stories. Hemingway regards her with approval from his perch atop the bestsellers. Some books, his expression seems to say, are worth the wait. And in a little coffee shop across town, 2 writers are beginning the most important story of their lives, the one they'll write together, word by careful word, choice by brave choice, love by hard-won love.